Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So our today's topic is the hospital. Two things are there in this topic. Number one, or rather three things. Number one, the waste, and number two, the hospital waste. What is waste and what is hospital waste? What is difference in between a journal waste and a hospital waste? And then how to manage, how to deal with this hospital waste that is being produced in different hospitals and during different activities. So everything that is made for a defined purpose, okay, anything which is not intended for further use is termed as waste. So as you know, if does not have does not have any intention to use it during any process or any procedure or any work, that is a waste. As simple as that. Risk of waste, all the persons exposed to the hazardous hospital waste are potentially at risk, okay? And this risk includes to all those who either handle the waste at any stage or are of diagnosis in the process of treatment or immunization of the human beings or animals even, or in research in a hospital. So these are the usual activities that are being done in a hospital. That is the diagnostic process, the checkup process, the treatment process, and the immunization process, and the research process. If you use all that, they come in the diagnosis, and OPDs, they come the diagnosis and the treatment, and then the immunization centers and the different research activities in different hospital environment. So this is also called the hospital waste, is also called the biomedical waste. Okay. Then hospital waste management. This does mean that the management of the waste that is produced by the hospital using such techniques that will help to check the spread of disease through. Okay. So managing your waste in such a way that it should help to check the spread of disease. It should not spread the disease of different kinds, not only to those that are there in the hospitals, the patients, the managers, the handlers, etc., etc. So to handle that in a way that it should not spread the disease is called the hospital waste management. The generation of hospital waste, the medical waste in different countries of Asia, if you see that it is near about, it is said that near about 2 kg per bed is being generated in different hospitals all around the world. And this may differ accordingly to different parts of the world. Now you can see that in the Bangladesh, this is near about 0.8 to 1.67 kg per bed, and total quantity of the hospital waste that is being generated only in Dhaka is near about 93,000 tons per year, okay, per bed. Okay, then Bhutan, it is very less in the Bhutan per bed, only 0.27 kg per bed, and total 73,000 tons. 73 tons of the waste is being produced all over the Bhutan, being a small country, but the ratio of producing per bed waste is also very less there. Then there is India, 1 to 2 kg per bed, Malaysia near about 2 kg, 1.9 kg per bed per day, and then Nepal 0.5 half kg near about, and Pakistan near about 1 kg per bed per day. So waste that is being produced in China, that is near about 7,30,000 tons per year, and in India 330,000 tons per year. Pakistan produces 250 hospital waste, biomedical waste per year. So only in Colombo, in Sri Lanka, however, the Sri Lanka produces very less quantity of the hospital waste per bed ratio, but it produces only in Colombo 6,600 tons of hospital waste per year. So these are the different developed countries, 1 to 5 kg per bed per day, with variations among different countries. But the developing countries all over here, you can see they are producing within the range of the 1 to 2 kg per patient per bed. So this is the generation, and you can see that this is the generation of only the hospital waste in the Pakistan, that 250,000 ton, 2.5 lakh ton per year. The waste is being produced in the hospitals of the Pakistan, and not discussing about the general waste all among the society, which is in millions of the tons and not being disposed. So at least for the disposal of the hospital waste, because this is more hazardous, more disease producing, so we, the persons, the doctors and the medical community is being directly involved in the management or the mismanagement, and as a result of the mismanagement, the spread of different disease, not only in the doctors, in the handlers, in the hospital staff, in the community as well. So we have to manage it very carefully. WHO classifies hospital waste as journal waste, which is non-hazardous. It classifies the waste into two groups. In amongst the non-hazardous, there is the journal waste, and among the non-biological waste, shafts, infectious waste, chemical waste, and the radioactive waste. In the journal waste, they don't hazard the human beings and the human health, and these are the office papers, wrappers, kitchen waste, journal sweeping, etc., that are being produced during the office work, file work, etc., in the OPDs and the wards and the laboratories and in different parts of the hospital. Then there are pathological, there are the human tissues and the fluids, body parts, blood, body fluids, etc., that are being in the OPDs, in the wards, in the OTs, in the laboratories, etc. Sharps that are being used as by the means of different instruments, or the needles, or the syringes, etc., and then there are the infectious waste. Infectious waste can transmit the different types of the infections to the human beings, and the waste suspect to contain pathogen. For example, in the laboratory, the urine, the stool, the blood, the sputum, the cerebrospinal fluid, the different taps of the ascitic fluid or the pleural fluid, etc., all these things are being supposed to transmit or the transport the infection from one person to another person. And then there are the chemical wastes, laboratory reagents, disinfectants, film developers, etc., and they have their own allergic or chemical or hazardous effects. And then the radioactive waste, usually in the liquid form, from unused liquid from the radiotherapy or the lab research, contaminated glasswares, etc., etc. So these are the different classification of the WHO for the waste, the hazardous and the non-hazardous, and then in the hazardous, the pathological, the sharps, the infectious waste, the chemical waste, and the radioactive waste. So if you see, in the non-hazardous, you have the general items, and then in the hazardous, there are the biodegradable, non-biodegradable, and the dressing, soaps, etc., etc. These are the potentially infectious waste, and then potentially toxic wastes are the radioactive chemicals and the pharmaceuticals. The hospital waste or the biomedical waste is being categorized into 10 different categories according to their hazard, according to their infectivity, according to their tendency to cause the disease or transmit the disease, etc. And they are the human anatomical waste, animal waste, microbiology, and the biotechnology waste, waste shops, discarded medicines and the cytotoxic drugs, soil waste, solid waste, and then liquid waste, incineration, ash, and the chemical waste. As you go from 1 to the 10th category, the hazard of the that waste is being decreased. So the most hazardous wastes are being categorized as at the most top of these rings. If you see the composition, how much the different types of the waste are being produced in different hospitals, you can see that 80% of the waste that is being produced in the hospitals, they are non-hazardous. Of the waste that are being hazardous, and out of these 20%, 15% are the infectious healthcare wastes, and only 5% are there the chemical and the radioactive and the hazardous health care wastes are there. And then if you see the distribution of further distribution of this 5%, this 15% is the infectious waste that is being produced pathologically. If you see this 5%, out of this 3% is the chemical and the pharmaceutical waste, and then 1% is the sharp, and 1% is the radioactive, cytotoxic, and the heavy metals. So as a whole, you can say that out of this 20% of the hazardous waste, 50% are the pathological or the infectious waste, 1% radioactive, 1% sharps, and 3% chemical, pharmaceutical, and rest of 80% are being the non-infectious or the general waste that are being produced in different areas of the hospital. So what are those areas of hospitals where these waste are being produced, and how much waste are being produced in different areas of the hospital? If you see that the most waste producing area of the hospital is the wards, where 26% of the waste is being produced there. Then comes the theaters and 17%, then the lab 16%, and then the OPD, X-ray, and the accident and emergency 1 to 3% areas, surroundings, parks, etc., Brahmda, etc., as well. Rest of 34% is being produced all over there. So if we will take care of producing or decreasing the amount of the waste that is being produced in different areas, we can decrease these production of waste to very much less quantities of the hazardous waste can be, or the non-hazardous general waste can be produced in the hospitals. The risk from poor hospital waste management, as you all know, that they may cause the injuries to infection to all categories of hospital personnel and the waste handlers. Then the risk of infection outside hospital for waste handlers and scavengers, and at times the general public living in the vicinity of the hospital. And then risk are associated with hazardous chemicals and the drugs and the persons handling waste at all stages. And amongst all those, these scavengers, they are not educated, they are not knowing the hazards of this waste, and they produce themselves a lot of number of diseases. So their training, if they are being involved officially in the disposal or the management of these waste, is very necessary, and we will see in the further slides how can we manage it. These persons are at most risk because of these hospital waste are the doctors, the nursing staffs, the ward staffs, the housekeepers, patients and the visitors, the whole community, and then the environmental effects of these. And most of the doctors and the nurses and the ward staffs being exposed to these diseases and produces hepatitis B and hepatitis C and other this type of the diseases because of handling of these shafts of the patient's excreta or the fluids or the discharges. And you have seen and you have listened to many of the cases that are being exposed because of these wrong handling or malhandling of these hospital waste. There are two different types of the hazards to the health due to this hospital waste, and that generally the infections, all type of the infections can be transmitted through the fomites or through the waste or through the these patients and these wastes. And then there is the genotoxicity and cytotoxicity. Genotoxicity describes the property of chemical agents that damages the genetic information within a cell, causing mutation, which may lead to in trophy units and the radiology units, etc., etc. Then cytotoxicity is the toxic to cell is the cytotoxic. There may be the chemical toxicity as well, then the radioactivity hazards, physical injuries, public sensitivity, etc. So these are the health hazards because of these hospital waste. Effective waste management of these hospitals, they need the national policy and a strategic plan, guidelines and SOPs, and these are the areas where that we are involved, that during the management, during the disposal of all these type of the waste, whoever is involved in this thing, there should be guideline. They have guideline and SOPs properly, and they should be trained properly to dispose these waste properly. Then we need a national policy which is present there, and then the strategic guidelines and the plans, they are all present, legislation and the rules for the waste management. The political commitment, I don't comment on this political commitment or the committed manpower, but the proper budgetary allocation. There is very minimum or least budgetary allocation to the hospital waste management system, and their emphasis, they are being less emphasized or the neglected corner of the hospital management as a whole. So the main issue in this hospital management is the implementation of this strategy and the plans and the guidelines. Whatever the legislation, whatever the rules of the waste management of the hospitals are present there, even if they are being implemented properly, the majority of the problems can be solved, and then it needs further improvement. But the first step is to implement those rules, those policies which are already present there, and to properly invest and properly dispense the budget which is already present for this. If it is not sufficient, then we will be involved for the increase of these budgets. But even if this budget, some meager budget is even present, that should be spent properly. This should be the hierarchy or the plan or the way for the hospital waste management. And we should first, on the top, we should try to prevent the minimum quantity of the waste. As you can see that in Nepal and the Bhutan, they are producing only 0.34 or the 0.26 kilogram of the per bed of the hospital per day, while we are producing near about 1.06 kilogram per kg per day per bed in the hospitals, while different developed countries producing much more than that. So first of all, we should try to prevent, and we will try to produce as less quantity of the waste in the hospitals as possible, and then we try to reducing it or reusing it. We will see the different term, and then recycling it, recover it, treat and dispose. Then we see what do we mean by prevent. You know, what do we mean by the reduce, reuse, recycle, or the recover? Reducing lowering the amount of the waste produced, and then reusing it using materials repeatedly after sterilization, which material can be reused. Then recycling, using all this discarded material to build different others, manufacture different other products. And then recovery, recovering energy from waste. This is the very popular process of producing electricity in different parts of the advanced world, that they don't dispose the waste, these wastes, any waste, general or the hospital waste, and they use all these waste to produce the energy, and the contribution of the waste per house is being subsidized to those households in their electricity bill. And then at the last, if these all cannot be done, they cannot be reused, they cannot be recycled, they cannot be recovered. So then there is the option of the landfill, save this disposal of the waste by burying those waste in different sites of the list landfills. But this is the least favored option. So WHO hospital waste management cycle is, you see, if you start, then the training, first of all, the training of all the individuals who are being involved in management of these hospital waste, then their supervision and monitoring, then minimizing the production of these waste, not only minimizing the produced production of the waste, but minimizing the produced waste through different procedures that you will come in the next slides. Then identification of these wastes and their segregation in different types, which is the journal, which is the hazardous, and segregating and grouping that, and then handling this waste, treatment, transporting. Handling means most of the time is the transporting to the area where they should be treated, then their treatment and disposal, and record keeping, that how much waste has been produced, how that was being disposed, how much was the quantity of the hazardous waste, and how much was the quantity of the general waste that is being produced in that area of the hospital. In steps in the management of hospital waste that you see, they are the training and awareness, as you see, generation of the waste, then segregation or separation, their collection, then their transportation, and their temporary storage in the storage area that has been made in the hospital, and they should not be stored more than 24 hours there. And then their treatment, whatever the treatment is, reducing them, recycling them, reusing them, recovering them, or burning them through incineration plants, or the landfilling, or burying them, and this is the final disposal. And these are, you can see the generation, then the collection and transport, and treating them through disinfection, through reusing, incineration, or the disposal through dumping or burying them. Waste minimization means this is a process of the elimination that involves reducing the amount of the waste produced in the society and helps to eliminate the generation of harmful and the persistent waste. Means if 1 ton of the waste has been produced, then minimizing it to half ton or a quarter ton by pressure, by burning, by treatment, etc., that will come in the further. So there are the waste minimization techniques: reduction at the source, change the products which is being used, which is producing more waste, that may be changed through some other. This is called the substitution. Then change in the composition of the products and change in the concentration of the products, that if a product is being used in 1 liter, it may be concentrated and may be used in 10 ml. And then the change of the process, changes in the input materials, better processes control, technology change or the modification, change in the operation system. And then with the good practices, so improved segregation grouping of the waste, then procedural measures, loss prevention, then better management practices, material handling and improvement. So all these reduces the source reduces the production of the hospital waste at the source where it is being produced. Then once it has been produced, then recovery, reusing and recycling on the site or off the site. And then this is the recovery and return to the original process, recovery and use as a raw material for some another process, and processing for resource recovery, processing to create a useful byproduct through these produced wastes. So waste identification is the appropriate way of identifying the waste is by sorting the waste into different color codes according to the hazardous capacity of those waste. These color codes are being formulated by the WHO, and there are different color codes are being used in different countries, and this makes it easy for identification and thereby easy for safe handling, transportation and the waste treatment. And the color code varies from country to country. So if someone is having some waste in the red shoppers or the red bags, he should know from the far distance that is a very hazardous or highly infectious material. And then there are the different color codes. So the highly infectious materials are being stored or segregated in the red bags or the shoppers, and then infectious or pathological or anatomical wastes are being stored in the yellow shoppers, and sharps are being stored in again yellow, but they are box, they are not the shoppers, because the sharps or the needles or the knives, they will penetrate the shopper and will injure the handler. Then the chemical and pharmaceuticals are being stored or transported in the segregated in the brown bags, and radioactive materials in the silver bags, and the journal waste in the black shopper. So you can see that I had colored the different materials accordingly. So which is the color, that is the color of the shoppers in which or the bags in which these type of the materials should be stored. Highly infectious in the red, infectious, pathological, and anatomical in the yellow, sharps in the yellow bags boxes. Then the chemical pharmaceutical is in the brown, and the radioactive in silver, and the journal waste in the black shoppers. So when you will visit the hospital, you will see the different colors of the shoppers, and you may know that which type of the material is being present in that color of the shop. Then you see again the journal waste in the black bins, liquid waste blue, the infectious waste yellow bins, and the sharp waste in the red bins. This is a different color code that is being used in different countries. This is our system which we are usually using, that the journal bags and the journal waste in the black shoppers or the black containers, and the liquids in the blue, and the sharps in the red, and the infectious in the yellow type of yellow color of the bags. Waste segregation means dividing or separating waste at earliest opportunity at the point of origin, and not allowing hazardous waste to mix up with the non-hazardous waste. Okay, so once it has been mixed and the hazardous waste is in small quantities, and if it is being mixed with the non-hazardous waste, large quantities of non-hazardous waste, it will make all the waste hazardous. So it is very important to segregate it at the point of origin. If the waste is properly segregated, small amounts are needed for disposal instead of large quantities of the waste. Ultimately, related manpower, related cost, related risk, they are all being less and lower. If segregation is not properly done, small quantities of hazardous waste has the chance to mix with the large volumes of the non-hazardous waste and making the whole volume into the hazardous waste. So this is the importance of segregating these all waste at the point of the source, at the point of the origin or the generation. Waste handling means the link between packing, storage, transportation of medical waste from every area of the institution by designated individual. This is what the waste handling is. So now see that this is the outfit for the waste handler, and this is the thing which is being malmanaged in our hospital waste management system, that these persons who are handling all these waste, they are not properly using their protective equipment, and they are not wearing the thick gloves, they are not wearing the mask, they are not having the long sleeved shirts, they are not having plastic apron, and they are not having long boots. So all these things, if they are wearing, if accidentally they have some cut or some puncture through some sharp or the needle, they will even then be can be saved from different type of the disease. Collectors must wear protective materials, as you saw in the previous picture. Then the collection of the waste in the colored bags or the colored covered bins, as by the color code, you know. Then the content of the container should not exceed 3/4 of its capacity, and the 1/4 of the container should remain empty. And if the bag is used for waste collection, tie the neck tightly. Avoid throwing or dragging over floor or holding the bottom of the container, because at the bottom of the container there may be the sharps or etc. thing which may penetrate your skin. So its upper 1/3 is empty. It should be tied there, and then it should be handled from the upper side, and it should not be dragged or thrown. It should be picked up and then transported to the vehicle or etc. Then there is the in-house transportation. That means the transportation of the waste from where it has been produced, from the site of the origin or the collection to temporary storage area in the hospital within the institution. There is being a temporary area which is being allotted for the temporary storage of these waste, transporting them to that temporary storage area within the institution. Then this waste should be transported by designated trolley and through the designated route according to the time schedule given by the institutional authority. It does not mean that every time these trolleys and things are moving here and there. So temporary in-house storage is the store. It will be like a room or the area or the building within the healthcare facility, depending upon the quantity and quality of the waste production and the frequency of the waste collection. So it depends on the waste production of different hospitals, that how much naturally with more than 2,000 beds, the civil hospital will need larger temporary in-house storage area, and near about 600 beds in the Dow University Hospital, so it will require a lesser area. So this is according to the need of the hospital, and normally waste should not be stored there for more than 24 hours. And within that 24 hours, it should be transported to the permanent disposal areas. Then record keeping of all these waste that is being produced and that is being incinerated or dumped or treated or disposed. And this record keeping may give you or should give you some important information, and which are needed for assess the recurrent expenditure, assess the quality and quantity of the generated waste, and assessing the thing that how can these waste can be reused or recycled in different other making the byproducts or same products, or how it can be substituted by another. If some type of the waste is being produced in very large quantities, that then how it can be substituted by some another material which should produce less waste. Then final disposal, there are different ways of final disposal. Then the incineration, and these are being destroyed and being converted by burning into specified containers at a temperature over 850 degrees centigrade, and it is being converted into ashes. Then there are the chemical disinfection, and they being made inert by different methodologies. So final disposal methods for different types of the waste, the general and non-hazardous waste, are being secured in the landfills. The liquid waste are the chemical disinfectant are being used, or they may be neutralized with the reagents and discharged into the sewerage system. Then human anatomical waste are being incinerated and sent to the landfill sites. Then sharps and the needles can be cut by the needle cutters and contained in 1% bleach solution and sent to the landfills for disposal. Microbiological waste may be autoclaved, they may be microwaved, they may be incinerated, followed by landfill disposals. Then the infectious solid wastes, they again may be autoclaved, microwaved, or incinerated, and they are being followed by the landfills, similarly like the microbiological waste. Radioactive waste, the solid waste are disposed by concentration and storage. They may be concentrated, compressed, and then they may be stored in the areas where they cannot spread the radioactivity, a special area. And then the pressurized containers are there, which are disposed of with the general waste in the secured landfills. So different ways of disposing all these type of the waste for different types of the waste that are being produced. So we remember this treatment, this management of different types of the waste, and be careful to remember the cytotoxicity or the genotoxicity. These are, we remember the composition of different types of the waste. These are all the viva questions that are being asked. Then you saw the waste disposal, landfill properly designed and properly managed. Cheapest and easily available ways, where we dug the land in ditches, then fill it with these waste, and then refill it with the sand. Then there are the shredders, which cuts and destructs and breaks the waste material and minimize their amount. All the bulk waste of plastic, including risk waste, is disinfected and then cut into small pieces and converted into compact form. And this is cheaper than incinerator, and this don't cause produces any pollution, cost effective as well. Then there are the autoclave, which is an expensive way to dispose these waste as compared to the shredders. What is incineration? This is the best option for disposal of the waste, especially the hazardous waste. But this is a costly option. But it has to be used for some of the materials that are being highly hazardous. So the incineration is referred to waste volume reduced to less than 5%. Means if you are putting in 100 ton of the waste into an incinerator, that will be converted into 5 ton ash. This is sufficiently at high temperature, and as I said you, more than 850 degrees centigrade. And residence time, any hydrocarbon vapor can be oxidized to carbon dioxide and water. Relatively simple devices capable of achieving very high removal efficiencies. Heat can be recovered, avoids contamination by reducing infectiousness, pollutants level. Most gases are being borne. Well-designed system will give no visible smoke or odor. Easy to maintain. Only solution for certain waste types. So there is incinerator that is being present here in our Dow University Hospital, and it is also present in the Civil Hospital, Dow Medical College. So when you have some time, you must visit to those incinerator site, see the incinerator, how does it work, and see the different qualities of it. And these incinerators are designed to efficiently and safely burn waste at a specified rate and temperature with residuum ash containing no combustible material. Air and fuel are mixed in correct proportion, regulated combustion air, minimum exhaust gas residence time, 1 to 2 seconds in the secondary chamber, proper residence time to obtain complete burnout, provide for creating turbulence in combustion chamber, high temperature and chemical resistance refractory lining, satisfy and exceed pollution control norms. This is what the structure of the incinerator, and these are the two chambers of the incinerator you can see here, and you can see in detail in your book as well. So incineration system components are the waste pre-treatment, preheating or shredding, number one, then waste loading system, conveyors, hoppers and the sprayers, burner management system, combustion chamber, and then the heat recovery, air pollution control device, stack discharge and ash disposal, emission monitoring system. All these are present in this incinerator type. Modern incineration technology has advanced to a stage where previous doubts are now unfounded. The focus should be more on how to reduce amounts of the waste generated. Focus should not be on incineration or the dumping or the landfilling. Focus should be on to produce as less amount of the waste as possible. Pollution prevention should be based on limiting the amount of the waste produced upfront rather than developing extensive treatment processes downstream. Then you remember that hierarchy that I showed you, that your focus should be on this one. Your focus should be to prevent or reduce the amount of the waste that is being produced instead of treating these waste through incineration or through any other procedure. So upstream should be the focus, downstream should not be the focus. Landfills should be considered when adequate incineration facilities are not available there, and landfills should sited away from any possible pollution of the groundwater and the rivers, from the wells, from the rivers, from the lakes, which are being water supply sources of the area for the persons to drink them. Then access to site must be restricted to authorized persons only, and unauthorized persons like scavengers and others should not be allowed to approach there. Only biomedical waste should be buried in the landfill to maximize the life of the landfill. It is not the general waste or the general waste that is being produced all around the city that should be a landfill there. Burying site should be covered with the layers of the earth each day to prevent dogs, birds, insects, and rodents proliferations. Then hospital waste management practices in Pakistan. Hospital waste management practices somehow have not been given appropriate attention and importance in Pakistan. There are other problems that may be the lack of implementation of the guidelines. And in my opinion, this is the most important problems, that whatever the guidelines are present there, whatever the minimum resources that have been allocated for this corner of the healthcare system, they are not being used properly, they are not being followed properly, and they are not being implemented properly. However, I agree that these resources and these things needs further improvement, but at least what is present, that should be used properly with honesty and with devotion and with commitment. There are gaps which are existed within the waste management rules and their implementation. The rules are not proper and they need improvisation there. Then there are the problems in the Environmental Act, and this legislation has to be revised and looked up again. Then there is the lack of interest and the unity. Lack of interest in the part of the hospital managers. They most of the times are involved in managing day-to-day or the administrative or the salary or the postings or the transfers or the duties or the rosters, but they are not being involved in these important aspects. Then there are the economic constraints. And then according to the conventional methods are being followed, the old managements are being followed continuously, and they are not being improved or advanced or updated. And then no need to comment on these points. The next point, the corruption at the lower level, I should say at all the levels, and especially anyway. Then hazardous waste management is not high in the political agenda as well. And this is because of not the negligence. This is because of the less education of the political persons. They are because of the less counseling of those political persons. They don't realize the importance of this agenda, this point. And this is our duty, the duty of the healthcare professionals, the duty of the public health consultants and the doctors, that they should emphasize on these, and they should educate and counsel these persons about the importance of the things. Once when they are being acknowledged with the importance of this area, the hospital waste management, they will be committed there. Then a lack of responsibilities and supervision and inadequate enforcement of existing pollution control laws. And with that, thank you very much. And if there is any question, so the question is that what are the ways of reducing hospital waste, given the fact that procedural protocols needs to be followed as well. Yes, you are right, but you did not thought over the slide that I have given in the prevention of production of hospital waste, that I gave the different things. That one thing was the substitution. Number one thing is the unnecessary use of the things, where one work can be done with one piece of the paper. We are wasting too many pieces of the papers there. This is just an example. So using the things cautiously, using the things by having in mind that these are our personal things. These things have been purchased from the budget of the poor peoples. So we don't have to waste things and use them cautiously by as much saving the things as possible. Number one. Then there are some essential waste that should be produced. So that is why nobody has said that don't produce the waste. The peoples have said that reduce the waste. Then again, I has said that substitution of different materials that can be done there. If one material is producing a lot of waste, then it can be substituted by some other material. The example is that very common if you visit in different areas of the hospitals. If you see the X-ray system, which was previously being done, that X-ray has been taken, the film has been taken out, film is being washed, and then we saw, oh, this is out of focus. Okay, and then it is being wasted, and next film should be taken. This is the production of waste and production and waste of the resources as well. Then it is being advanced, and now the digital X-ray machines are there, and they show you the film on your screen. And if this film is okay, then you make the real films to give the patients. And if they are not okay, they are not well exposed, they are underexposed or overexposed, then X-ray should be taken again with a better exposure. So in these ways, it requires a lot of commitment. It requires the sympathy. It requires the technical knowledge. It requires the research and commitments there, and it can be reduced to as much quantity as possible. And instead, you see, because of all the advanced researches and advanced system, the developed countries are producing more waste per bed, near about 2 kg or 2 to 4 kg or even 5 kg in some advanced countries per bed per day, while the developing countries are producing less waste. But this does not mean that we are producing less waste. We are using less equipments. We are using less things on the patient as compared to those advanced countries. So on the one hand, do not compromise on the health of the patient, and on the other hand, try to save the things as much as possible, and on the third, try to produce as less waste as possible there. And this is all depends on our handling. Any other question is there? Okay, thank you very much. With that, it is completed, and we will meet in the next lecture again, inshallah ta'ala. Thank you very much.